Hello and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to another one in my Canal series. Today I'm in the Wiltshire town of Chippenham to continue our story at the Wilts and Berks Canal. We're going to be looking at the Chippenham arm, what remains of it in this town here today, and also catch up with some of the restoration projects that have been happening on the main line, if you like, between Symington and the town of Abingdon upon Thames. So I hope you can join me again here on West Country Wanderings for another Canal series adventure. Now sadly, most of the Chippenham arm of the Wilts and Berks Canal has been built over, but the start of it was at Chippenham Wharf, or rather the end of the arm where it links off, and that is now Chippenham bus station. We're going to have a look at that next. Before we do that though, just enough time here to admire Brunel's magnificent viaduct right through the heart of the town here on his famous line between Bristol Temple Meads and London Paddington. Isn't that a terrific piece of railway architecture? So we're just heading down High Street, now going across the River Avon, lovely bridge here, people there feeding the swans as well. We're heading down to the bus station, which was originally the wharf for the Wilts and Berks Canal here in Chippenham in Wiltshire. So here we are at Chippenham bus station, and you can see there's a collapsed wall just at the rear of those houses, actually in the turning circle of the bus station. And I'm just wondering if that was originally part of Chippenham Wharf. I'm hoping to go back home and see if I can find some old photographs of what Chippenham Wharf originally looked like. There's that collapsed wall again from another angle. The houses behind it are decidedly newer, and we're at Bay 9 here in the bus station. And I think this wall nearest the camera on the left of your screens is also newer, but the one on the further side of the bus station there is definitely older. Perhaps that's why it has been, well, deteriorated to collapse. Now you can see at some point ago there was some supporting bars that have been put in to keep that wall retained, but obviously they haven't done a great job. And on the other side of it, it looks like they have put bricks on it, and bricks and Cotswold stone in walls don't make a very good mix. Okay, so we're going to leave the urban area of Chippenham now and head south, following the line of the former canal here in Chippenham in Wiltshire. So we're now on the Pewsham Way, so sorry about the traffic noise, but a lot of the arm, Chippenham arm, the Wilts and Berks, this road was actually built on top of, so yeah, it now kind of swings. It's like the southern bypass for the town of Chippenham. It takes you on to places like Canal, which we'd visited previously on the channel when I did a Lost Canals walk from Canal to the Chippenham railway branch, but we're not looking at railways today. We're heading on this. It is difficult to tell the exact route of the canal. Say, for one thing, it's been built over, and the other thing, I use a resource called Rail Maps Online, and that sounds a bit strange. There is a section on there for old canals, and I think throughout Chippenham the line of the canal is a little bit imprecise. So what I'm going to do is, when I edit the video, I'll go back to the National Libraries of Scotland and have a look at some old OS maps and see if I can trace the route there. Sorry about the lorry there. And compare it to the route that I'm walking down to Pusion Locks, which is where the branch, the Chippenham branch, linked up with the main line. Just to recap, this is the 5th video I've done on the Wilts and Berks Canal. There are other ones including where the Wilts and Berks joins the River Thames in Abingdon, but also where it joins the Kennet and Avon Canal in Symington. Have a look in my canals playlist, which I'll link to at the end of this video. You'll be able to catch up with those. In terms of the history of this canal, well, everything kicked off in 1795 with the Whitworths. I think they were father and son, canal engineers in these parts, was Act of Parliament that was passed in 1795, and construction of the canal began in 1796. Now, according to my OS map on my phone, there should be a footpath which kind of goes across this field here. Sadly, it looks like it is no more because I can find no trace of it. Just behind that, there is a Wessex Water Treatment Works, and it shows a line of water. And I don't think that's anything to do with our Chippenham arm of the Wilts and Berks Canal, because it was following the higher contour that this very busy and noisy road follows. So I'm going to continue following the road, but we will be turning off of it shortly, where things hopefully will be a little quieter and I can tell you some more. Now here, however, we can't be out under any doubt, because this is the canal roundabout, and leading off of it is Canal Road. Now this is Canal Road, and I'm pretty certain that this isn't the line of our canal because it has a gradient on it, and as far as I'm aware, the Chippenham arm of the Wilts and Berks did not have any locks. Now I've just crossed over Canal Road, and that's our main Pusion way there in the middle of the screen, just where the cars just come across that one there too. That's Pusion Way, and I think the line of our canal was just down the embankment there, and that the road has been built up higher than the original line of the canal. Of course, with the canal, which I think is to the left of that tree in the middle of the picture, when it was filled with water, it would have come up to the line of Pusion Way anyway. So we're now on a line south and west of Pusion Way, and this is a cycle track and footpath. And this isn't the line of the canal because it's, as you'll see, it's quite undulating, and as I'm led to believe from what I can glean from the net, there were no locks on the Chippenham arm of the Wilts and Berks Canal, but it's very pleasant, and at least it's away from that busy road, isn't it? So hopefully you can hear me a little bit better now. But we're continuing our journey down here. Now, word of warning, this will take us directly to Pewsham Locks. And again, although it'll look like it is part of the canal, it isn't, because the original line of the canal headed up a little bit more to the north. I'll insert a map now, and it goes through what is now woodland, and as far as I can see, there is no public right of way through that woodland to enable us to walk along the Chippenham arm. However, when we get to Pewsham Locks though, you can walk alongside the route at the main line of the Wilts and Berks, as I say, which ran from Abington to Semmington. When I get there, I'll tell you a little bit more about the Chippenham arm and also about the canal and the restoration plans in the Chippenham area. Just come back out to the main road. You're thinking, why have I done that away from that nice quiet footpath? There's a method in my madness, because just the other side, again to the north and the east of Pewsham Way, there is mainly a minor road or footpath or a kind of bridle track, which seems to be a curved ridge of a contour, and that usually is a good indicator of railways and canals. So we're just going to have a closer look and see if there's anything we can see over there before we continue down to Pewsham Locks and the main line of the Wilts and Berks Canal. Now, I'll put the map up again so you can see exactly where I am in relation to the OS map, and I'm just trying to make sense of this location here and see what it is. So now it's a right of way, bridle way, but I'm pretty certain this used to be a road. I think it was a road before they built Pewsham Way, a road out of the town centre heading down in the direction of Canal, etc. So this is on a gradient heading down, so I'm on gradient higher up at this point. That's the first thing to notice. If you look behind me, however, it goes up into a ridge and then it goes back down again. Now, what does that indicate? I don't mind betting that this used to be a bridge over. So I think this is an old road, almost certainly over our Wilts and Berks Canal arm. Now, if you look at the literature, it blankly says that the Pewsham Way went all over the Chippenham arm, and I think it does in some points, but I don't think it does in ordinary, because if you look at the contour line, and don't forget the canal engineers would have locked the contours to get a nice steady gradient, unlike our road, which does undulate in terms of height, this is a more even height coming through here. So I think our line of the Chippenham branch went underneath what was a road here and continued on that way until it goes kind of around in a northeasterly direction until it gets to that wood. And then that's definitely the route of the track where it kind of bears round to the right, where it links up with the locks which we're about to see. But yeah, I just thought I'd show you that because it's not quite as straightforward as the write-up seems to indicate about the former route. And if I can find some more information with the Scottish maps online, I'll put that in round about now as well. In case you're wondering what it looks like on the other side of the, well, from the canal side, what would have been the canal side of that bridge, what I think was a bridge here. Sadly, it's all been infilled. I think there's something to do with like a water pump here. There's some new houses over here and the line of the canal goes around there. So I think it rises up here. This is our footpath now, and I think the bridge would have been under there. So I think that was infilled when the canal closed in 1914, so the road carried on, but that, yeah, again, is no longer a road, superseded by Pewsham Way, which I think was built in the 1980s or 1990s here in Chippenham. And I've just looked on that, it is actually a gas installation there, it does have a plaque on it. It says this location is called Cricket's Meadow, Pewsham. So I'll see if I can put that in on the any photographs from the Wilts and Berks Cricket's Meadow area of Pusion here. And I think I'm now walking on what was once the bridge, because it doesn't make any sense. It goes up and literally down the other side. There would be no other reason for that other than it being for a former bridge. So we're going to continue now right through Cricket's Meadow so we can join up with the main line of the canal. So this is in relation from, I've now crossed over the Pusion Way again, that bridge I was talking about, somewhere where those trees are there to the left of the houses, and I think the line of our canal then went through the meadow there just to above the road, and you'll see why above the road in a second. But below the houses, which obviously weren't there when the canal was here, neither was this busy road. Probably then following the line of the trees there. And then as you'll see, our road, our Pusion Way, dips down, but our canal was already at a lower level because, as I said, there was no locks. Our canal needed to be following already the lower line, so don't forget our Pusion Way road is at a higher level than the canal once was. Now, if this isn't even a clear indication of that's where our canal was, there's our road right at the front of the camera, and just the other side of the road there, between the trees, you've got some reed beds in there. I definitely think that's where our canal went into the heart of Chippenham Wharf, where we started by the bus station there, heading down to join the main route of the Wilts and Berks. So what was the purpose of the Chippenham Arm and the Wilts and Berks Canal? Well, just to recap, what was the purpose of the Wilts and Berks Canal? It was all to do with coal, getting coal into the city of London and getting it up onto the Kennington-Avon Canal, down, shall I say, from the Kennington-Avon Canal. Originally it would have come via the Somerset Coal Canal from the Somerset coalfields. Some of it would have come from South Wales too, in from the port of Bristol, and then making its way up from Symington from the K&A, across Wiltshire, heading to Abingdon, of course, where it joins the River Thames, and thence onto London via the River Thames. And that was the same reason that the canal arm of the arm of the Wilts and Berks Canal here in Chippenham, the Chippenham arm of the Wilts and Berks, was built again to get coal into this town here in Wiltshire. Now, it was through those woods there that our line of the Chippenham arm once went, underneath the power lines. Of course, the power lines weren't where when the canal was functioning, heading down to the Pewsham locks, which is where we're heading to on this footpath that I'm currently walking along. But unfortunately, I can't get into the wood to check out the line of the canal because there's no public right of way through those woods. Now, you'll know that if you've been following my Wilts and Berks Canal series here on West Country Wanderings, that there are plans to restore, well, pretty much the whole of it, including the entire line between Abingdon upon Thames and Symington to connect it with the K&A, and also to restore a couple of the branches, including this one here at Chippenham, and the North Wilts branch, which connects it up to the Thames and Severn Canal, which we have looked on one of my Thames and Severn videos previously. I can't remember the number of which one. I'll put the number of that update number where we walked along the I think they were repairing an aqueduct on the North Wilts branch when I was there talking about the T&S. Anyway, I digress. Because of the Pusion Way Road and all of the new housing around Chippenham is no longer possible, and of course what you saw, the bus station, it's impossible to rebuild the Chippenham arm in that direction. So the new plan is it's a long-term aim, there's no work taking place on it at the moment that I'm aware of to build it to the north and to the east of the town, where there's less development. And I think it's going to connect into a country park, or certainly a green park community here in Chippenham. But I'll drop a link in from the Wilts and Berks Canal Trust website, which gives you more details of that if you want to read up about the plans to restore the Chippenham Arm here. So this is an important part of our journey of exploration here today. This is the line of the Wilts and Berks Canal, the main line that is heading south towards Symington, where it links up with the Canal, heading down actually to Lacock and Melksham first of all. And I've spoken about Melksham and all the development around there, I won't get into that now. So it was here, behind the camera, where our Chippenham Arm joined. In fact, it was here. So around this point here, it's so overgrown now, it's very, very difficult to kind of imagine how the Chippenham Arm linked up with the Wilts and Berks at this point. The footpath I just walked on is down here, but that is nothing to do with the canal. That was not a canal route. You might think, oh, it's nice and straight and everything. Not canal. Canal came through that way via that wood that I showed you, and then joined up with the main line of the canal hereabouts. You're probably asking the question, Paul, if that was the Chippenham Arm and that's the route heading south down to the K&A, where is the bit that the main line of the Wilts and Berks came from? Well, the answer is you can't step through that hedge that was behind me and here. It's not very exciting, I'm afraid. The Wilts and Berks actually carried on through this field here. It's all been ploughed out now, so there's nothing to see. And it went on to a hamlet called Stanley, which we've seen before. If you go back to my Lost Railway walks to Canal, or from Canal should I say, we crossed over the Wilts and Berks there on an aqueduct. And if you carried on walking along that way, though, unfortunately that you haven't got a right of way to do so, that's where you'd end up. So I'm happy to report that now I'm walking along the route of the Wilts and Berks Canal, the main part of the Wilts and Berks, heading in the southerly direction towards Symington, well, Lacock anyway. And it makes it now a wonderful cycle route. I've seen people out walking and cycling on it today, here on the first day of August here in 2023 on one of my canal series. Brilliant to be out here in the open this, and just imagining what this would have been like when there was water here and not a cycle and walk path. But it's great that, I'm not sure, I think it was the Chippenham Borough Council that reopened this a few years ago. So it heads up to Pewsham Locks, which we're about to see shortly. It actually continues for another couple of miles. Well, it actually goes down to Lacock. We could walk all the way down to Lacock, but I don't think I'll be doing that today. I have actually done Lacock on a completely separate video. If you want to know what Lacock looks like, then I'll put a link to that video in the description of this one. Well, now that we've left both of the Pewsham locks there, and it's great to see that work is taking place to enable them to be fully restored here. In fact, the land is owned by the Wilts and Berks Trust. You actually walk through their land, the Trust's land. It's not right of way, but they operate as a permissive path for the towpath along there. But it's great to see it in water. They've also got their own little narrowboat here. Remember on the last one when we were on Wilts and Berks 4, we were in Swindon, they had dragonfly there, didn't they? That was good to see in the run trips, and occasionally they run trips here, and they have a pop-up canal. It's pop-up canal. No, I'll cut that out. A pop-up cafe here, bank holidays and occasional weekends, and again, check out the Wilts and Berks Canals Trust website for details of when that's most likely next to be. Good also to see nature here, lots of dragonflies here and mayflies as well. Birds around here. Wonderful section here, this restored section of the Wilts and Berks here, just outside the town of Chippenham in Wiltshire. Well, of all of the sections of the Wilts and Berks that we've done so far here on West Country Wanderings, I think this is by far the most delightful. It's certainly the most peaceful, most tranquil, and the one that's most enriched and touched by nature as well. It's fantastic to see water in this again. It would be wonderful to see narrowboats once again being able to go between Abingdon and Semmington and the Kennet and Avon and connected to the full canal network. But for the moment, this is a peaceful, tranquil haven steeped in canal history, but also a wonderful place just to get away from urban life and just enjoy the tranquil surroundings, surrounded by nature, butterflies, dragonflies, birds, and much else besides. Now, it's good to see that here provision is made for a slipway. I don't think this was original slipway here. There was no need for a wharf in this area. It's just fields that surround this section of the Wilts and Berks Canal. But that's easy then for the Canals and Rivers Trust to get their narrowboat on and off the canal to provide the trips a bit further up the canal route at Pewsham. What I'm going to do is going to sit in a quiet place now and tell you a little bit more about the Pewsham locks and what's happening in the restoration at this site just on the edge of Chippenham. Now, this section of the Wilts and Berks Canal was actually opened by the current Queen. She wasn't the Queen when she opened it, but it was opened on the 26th of May 2009 by the Princess of Wales. So she is now our Queen, of course, since that time. And the section north of here to Pewsham Locks was opened in 2012. Now, when the Wilts and Berks Canal was initially constructed, the section here between the town of Chippenham and the town, or the village should I say, of Lacock going on down to Melksham provided a significant challenge because of the sudden drop in height just on the outskirts of the town itself here at Pusion. So you don't just have one lock here, you don't just have two, you've actually got three: a top, a middle and a bottom lock. Not only that, there is a culvert and a spillway, as well as a dry dock facility as well, all of which are currently undergoing restoration. Now, as I'm talking to you now, I'm going to overlay with some of the pictures I've been taking. They're currently restoring it today as I'm filming here on this first day of August. So I've tried to do it a bit covertly, so I didn't do it with my fluffy big microphone, so that's why I'm relaying it now, doing a piece to camera sat on this what is called the Squirrel's Bench right next to the Wilts and Berks here. But yeah, so what's happening with the bottom lock, according to the note that's pinned to the fence, so it's difficult to get really close to what they're doing for safety reasons, because they're quite a sheer drop down into the lock bed. And what's happening there is they're draining that bottom lock at the moment, and they're getting out all of the silt so they can work on all of the mortar, the brick joints. Now, sadly, a few years ago here, a gentleman was working on one of these locks here at Pusion, and he was chipping out some of the old mortar, and unfortunately the entire lock wall fell on top of him. He sadly died, and they really have tightened up their health and safety procedures as they are. With a lot of canal trusts now, they are overseen by the Canals and Rivers Trust and the Waterways Authority as well. So glad to report that everything seems to be a-okay here today with the restoration projects. But yeah, you can see quite a bit of work going on between those three locks. It's difficult to be able to see right over to the dry dock though. But when they've taken the fences down again and a lot of it's been restored, I will come back here again to show you what has been achieved by the amazing Wilts and Berks Canal Trust and their brilliant volunteers. Now, though it's been quite a sunny day walking here to Pewsham from the town centre of Chippenham railway station and down to the bus station, the wind is getting up. There is a storm coming up from the further extremity of the southwest Atlantic Ocean, and the next few days are going to be rather wet, so no filming for at least a couple of days. Gives me a chance to edit this video, get that out to you before I then continue back on the Severn Way. I hope you've enjoyed it here for another adventure here on West Country Wanderings on one of my Canal series. I've produced some 40 plus videos now on the Canal series, including 14 updates on the Stroudwater and Thames and Severn Canal. We've also looked at the Grand Western Canal, the Bude Canal, and lots of others as well. And I'm sure we'll be doing a few more in the future. I'm also looking at going back to have a look at the tunnels on the Leinster Canal. Remember, we had that adventure about 6 weeks ago on the Herefordshire, Worcester and Shropshire borders, but I will return to that because that was a most interesting place indeed, and really good positive reaction to that video. But restoration continues on the Wilts and Berks, and I hope to give you another section on the Wilts and Berks in the not too distant future. Love to know what you think. Until next time on West Country Wanderings, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Bye bye.